Hello and welcome to this Pilates mat flow with hand weights. Hand weights are always optional. Let's start seated in our mat and we'll just do a few roll downs, rolling forwards and rolling up to restack the spine. If you have the weights, they can just slide down your shins to your feet, stretching through the top of the neck and opening through your shoulder blades, and then bringing the head and shoulders back up over the hips. We'll do this a few times just to stretch out through that upper and middle back. Warming up here, taking a few big deep breaths as you roll forwards, inhaling and exhaling to roll up and restacking your spine. And then we can add on, after this one, we're going to take it back down to our mat. So once you've come all the way up to a seated position, you can lift your arms up and roll down towards your mat. You can circle your arms overhead and then start to roll up all the way back to a seated position and then take it into that forward fold. Lift that chest, lift your arms and then roll through your pelvis, down through your lower back, down to the floor. Add an arm circle if you want to. Mindful of the hand weights if you're using them, not to flare your ribs as your arms go overhead. Really stay connected through those inner thighs. Plant the feet on the floor as you're rolling down and rolling up. Really scoop the abs. The weights are reaching forwards to help you with the roll up. We'll do one more here, rolling it all the way down to the mat. And arm circling, roll yourself all the way back up to seated, and then we'll add on just with a little bit of oblique work, taking our arm out to a T position. So you'll roll down to your mat, lift your head and chest and open out one arm to a T, come back to center. Those hands and weights can just rest on top of your thighs. As you are opening out, follow the head and the shoulder and the hand out to each side here, but make sure those legs stay nice and centered. Just having to work through those obliques a little bit. Lift the head and the chest here as well to get into those upper abdominals. And then once you're even on both sides with your arm reach, you'll roll all the way up to a seated position. Bring those glutes a little closer to your heels, roll down to your mat. We're going into some pelvic curls and spinal articulation. So make sure, your feet are not too far away from your glutes as you start to pelvic curl and roll it down through that spine. Those hands can just press into the floor or press into your hand weights beside your body. Make sure those shoulders are pressing into the mat as well. So feel that articulation of your spine as you're rolling up, rolling down, but don't lift too high. We don't want to compress into the back of your neck. Just that pelvis, middle back lifts off the mat. Shoulder blades, upper arms are pressing down into your mat. And then let's lift one leg to tabletop and the opposite arm. You can take the hand weight with you as you reach it over your face, bringing the knee over your hip. Being mindful of staying connected into the abs as you lift one foot and that opposite hand off the mat. And then let's try and go a little bit quicker, switching those feet as they pass through the air. Alternating your arms, nice and straight and strong arms. Lower abs stay engaged as those feet pass one another. Tapping the toes down on the mat in front of you. And then lower the feet, lower the hands, take a breath here. We're going into a bit more bridging here. You're going to lift one leg into tabletop. The option is always to keep both feet on your mat. You're going to lift the hips and then roll down through your spine. So it's a hip hinge straight up and then a spinal articulation, pelvic curl back to your mat. We'll do this about 4 times, lifting up and lowering down, and then you switch it over. You're going to roll up and then hinge straight down. So you have to get the articulation through that spine and then just lower your hips to the mat with control. And again, about 4 in this opposite direction. Keeping that stabilizing leg nice and strong, foot planted on the floor. You can always do this with both feet on the floor as well. And then once you've done both directions. Let's switch it up to the other side. Lift the hips, other leg comes to tabletop. You're going to roll through your spine and then lift the hips straight into your bridge. Roll down bone by bone and then press into that supporting foot. Squeeze your glutes and hamstrings to lift back up. About 4 here, rolling up, lowering down. And then you'll switch it to go in the other direction. Peel your pelvis off the mat and then lower the hips straight down to the floor. Making sure we're not hiking one hip or we're not dropping the pelvis. Nice and steady here. Find that articulation through the spine and then lower the hips to the mat with control. And then both feet can come to the floor. You can just rock your hips side to side, allow the knees to fall side to side. We'll do a little bit more abdominal work here with both legs now in tabletop, both arms reaching above your head. You can lift the head and chest if you want. As your foot taps to the floor, the same arm will go overhead. So you're extending that arm overhead as that leg taps away from you. The toes are reaching to the front edge of your mat as your hand is reaching overhead behind you. Really stay connected through the abdominals, through the upper and lower abdominals, so we don't arch through the back or pop the ribs and flare that chest. Continue to do the leg taps, but if you want to add a little bit more range through the shoulders, one arm comes beside your body as the arm goes overhead. So opposition arms as your legs tap away from you. Really stay strong through the shoulder as one hand goes beside your body, other hand overhead. Take a breath, take a rest here, feet to the floor, and we're going to repeat that. You can always go back to the feet on the mat and lifting alternate legs. Otherwise, both legs stay in tabletop. Arm goes away from you as your leg taps down to the mat. If you want to go further into the shoulder, one hand goes down beside your body as your other arm is reaching overhead. Otherwise, one arm stays right in front of your face, pressing up to the ceiling or up to the sky if you're outside. Take a breath there. Rest for a moment. Nice work staying connected into those lower abs and heavy through the ribs as well. We're going to move on now. You're going to come into goalpost position with your arms. We're going to go into a little bit of spine twist. So keep the feet on the floor. Just rock the hips side to side. Allow the knees to stay together and that outside foot will lift off your mat as those legs go to the left and to the right. And then you can add on by bringing the legs up to a tabletop position to continue with the spine twist just through that pelvis. Those arms are in goalposts, so you stretch through the shoulders. If this is too much though, you can always bring your arms out to a T position or just beside your body. If you've got those hand weights, they can press into the mat there. Press the shoulders, press your arms into the mat as you're rotating through the pelvis, through the lower part of your spine. Nice and controlled with your legs, the feet, the knees. That pelvis moves all as one. And then you can place the feet down, lower your hands, take a breath there. We're going to go into a little bit of thoracic spine rotation now. So align yourself on the mat. Those legs will come to tabletop. You're going to lift the chest and then reach your arm across to that opposite leg. You're aiming for the outside of your thigh. Take the hand weight with you if you want. Keep the shoulders and the head lifted off your mat as you bring the leg to tabletop and reach across your body, reaching that arm to the outside of your thigh there. Just to get a little bit of a twist through the shoulders, through those ribs, but that pelvis stays anchored to the mat there. Nice and controlled through the lower part of your body as you're twisting through that thoracic spine, lifting up through those rectus abdominals for that chest lift. Lower to the floor, take a breath here. We're going to bring both legs to tabletop now. You're going to lift the head and the chest. Lift your arms if you want. You're going into the double leg stretch. So you're reaching your legs out, pull your legs back to tabletop. You can always rest your hands down to the mat here or support the head with your hands. Just send those legs away and exhale to pull the knees back over the hips. Lower your head, take a breath here. Now we'll take it into your double leg lower and lift. So both legs reach up to the ceiling, lower your legs and then lift them back up over the hips. Head and chest is lifted, arms are reaching off the mat beside your body. That's always an option here. Think about the inhale and draw your navel deep. Exhale, go deeper to pull the feet back over your hips. Use that breath, stay nice and strong through the back of the legs. Lower down to rest, take a breath. We'll add those two things together now for our bicycle. So legs are together and you're going to reach them out, lift them up. Bend the knees. So like a bicycle motion, stay lifted through the head and the chest if you want to, reaching your arms beside the body as well as you bend and reach those legs away from you. And then you have to reverse your direction. Lower down to take a breath before you go in that opposite direction. When you're ready, you're going to lift the head and chest, arms are reaching, and now straight legs lower. Bend the knees to tabletop and reach your legs back up to the ceiling. Make sure that pelvis doesn't tip here so the lower back doesn't arch, especially as those legs go away from you. Pull your knees over the hips by drawing your navel deep to the spine and then rest. Lower the head, take a breath there. Extend your legs out. You're going to roll yourself all the way up to a seated position here. Once you are upright, you can come up and over into an all fours position. So quadruped position here. We're going into a bit of cat-cow. Just to transition, a little bit of spinal articulation here while you're on your hands and knees. So rounding through your back and then find that nice flat back. Find your extension through that upper back. Making sure you don't lock out through your elbows while you're here with your hands underneath your shoulders, scooping the lower abdominals to really get that flexion through your lower back. And then now you can come down to prone for a count of 5 if you want to. Lower yourself to your mat. Once you're there on your belly, if you're using those weights, they will be right out in front of you, arms extended overhead. And now you're just going to inhale, lift through your upper back and exhale, lower down to the mat. Forehead rests on the floor. As you inhale, you can pull those arms towards you, roll your weights along your mat towards you, and then roll your weights away from you as you lower down to the mat. Keep those legs on the floor, not lifting those legs. Pull the belly in and up off your mat to help draw yourself up from the back of the head, the shoulders, lift you up and lower down with control. Thinking about pulling yourself forward and swimming out your legs here. So stay lifted if you want to. Press your hands down into the weights or into the mat. Lift through that upper back as you're kicking those legs behind you. Nice and straight. Little flutter kicks here. Inhaling and exhaling. And after this breath, you can lower the feet, lower your head and rest here. You can rock your hips side to side here. Just relax through that lower back there. Now you're going to bring your arms into goalpost position. The weights can come with you if you want to. So elbows in line with those shoulders, hands in line with the head. You're going to lift the head and upper back and arms as well off your mat. As you inhale, everything lifts. You can not use your weights and just take the hands with you, lifting those elbows, connecting to those shoulder blades, those upper back extensor muscles to help lift the upper back off your floor and lower with control. Now we lift your legs as well. So everything lifts off the mat on the inhale here and exhale, lower down to your mat. Inhaling and exhaling to lower. You don't have to use the weights. You don't have to lift your legs. You can alternate between the leg lift and the upper back lift, or everything lifts like a skydiver. Think about lifting and reaching in opposite directions and lowering with control here. Take a breath here. Now you're going to separate those legs a bit wider And now as you lift everything up, pull everything to center, open back out and lower down. So you're lifting and pulling everything into your midline. So your legs will come together, those elbows will come together to beside your ribs, open back to goalpost arms, lower down to the floor. Inhale to lift and pull in, exhale, open your arms, open your legs to lower here. You have length through the back of the neck, so really staying long all the way through the back side of your body here. Take a breath. You can push back into that child's rest pose to finish and stretch out through your lower back, rounding that spine, sitting those hips back over your heels. Take a breath and relax through that back. And once you are done here, you can sit yourself all the way up to a seated position. We are going to come into our spine stretch forward, so you can sit upright, you can sit on a block or roll up your mat, sit on a cushion, because we want those shoulders right over your hips. Legs are in front of you, just separated slightly, maybe mat width of distance apart. You're going to roll forward and then take that breath, and you're going to roll all the way back up to a straight spine. Shoulders go over your hips. You can reach those arms out in front of you, holding the weights if you want to, or you can have the weights on your mat as you slide your hands forward to get the forward fold, and then slide those weights back to sit all the way upright. Think about sitting against that imaginary wall. You have to tuck your chin round through your cervical spine, hinge forward from your hips. Take a breath here. We're going into a little bit more back extension. Pick up the weights if you want to. You're going to reach your arms overhead and pull back to a goalpost arm position. The spine is nice and straight and hinge forward slightly from your hips. So you've got a nice flat back, but you're on a slight diagonal line here. Just a few of these, and then you're going to go into rowing with your arms. So elbows up in line with your shoulders, reach forward, pull back with your arms like you're rowing here. Again, nice straight spine here, getting into those back muscles as you draw your elbows back, squeezing into those shoulder blades. Take a breath. Sit yourself all the way up. If you want to use the weights, we're going into arm circles. Little circles going forward through your shoulders here. Have the palms facing up, and then turn the palms down as you go backwards through those arm circles. Reaching those arms out beside your body, lower down and rest there. Bring your legs together. We're going into some rolling down now to your mat. Arm will circle overhead and you're going to roll all the way back upright. You can take the forward fold here, stretch through that back, sit all the way up, and you can do an arm circle while you're seated. And then as those hands come in front of you, you'll roll through your lower back. Make sure the shoulders stay down away from your ears, down to the floor. Arms will circle overhead. Bring those hands beside your body. Reach for your toes as you roll yourself all the way up to a seated position. Lose the hand weights if you want to. Continue though to roll through your spine, adding the arm circle while you're laying down on your mat, and adding that arm circle when you are seated all the way upright with that nice straight spine. So you're getting that flexion through your spine, you're getting that extension through your spine, opening through the shoulders as well. Once you're done here, bring your legs together, go into the seated spine twist. So you're rotating through your shoulders, through those ribs, pelvis is anchored to the mat. You can bring your arms beside your body out into a T position here. Externally rotating through those shoulders to have the palms facing up. Really open out through your chest, keeping those arms in line with your shoulders as you twist to the left and to the right here, making sure those feet, those knees don't move around. Once you're even on both sides, you are going to roll it all the way back down to your mat, laying in supine. Hands come beside your body, bring your legs up to a tabletop position. We're going into coordination now, so you're going to lift the head and chest, straighten your arms, open and close your legs, bend your legs to tabletop, bend your elbows and lower the head down. So you have a tricep extension here as the legs extend and you do your chest lift. You can bring the arms beside the body, rest your hands on the mat, or keep those elbows hovering above your mat. Using the hand weights if you want a bit more through the triceps here. Stay connected through the abs, really strong through your legs as you open and close them. Next, we are going into arm circles as those legs straighten and bend back to tabletop. So you lift the head and chest, straighten your legs, open those arms, and then they come back up to the face, over your face as you bend your knees. So you have to lift, press down, arms open to a T. They go straight back up to the ceiling as you lower the head and bend your knees. Good, just about 5 here. Staying connected through the abs, lower the feet, reset yourself. We're going in the opposite direction with your arms. Continue to do the same thing with your legs. So arms will start overhead. Now you open those arms out, bring them beside your body and then lift them back straight over your face. As you lift the head and the chest, straight legs, lower as much as you can without arching through the back, strong through the shoulders as you circle your arms down and up and out. Once you've done about 5 here, you can lower your feet, lower your head, lower your hands and rest there. Take a breath, just rock out through your hips if you need to, stretch through your inner thighs. We are going to come up now into a side lying position. So position yourself on your mat, laying down on your side. If you're using a weight, we only need 1 hand weight for this side lying work. You will stack your shoulders, stack your hips, legs can be slightly in front of those hips. And we're going to just go into our double leg lift. Legs will hover above your mat. You can use your top arm as a kickstand, or you can bring it on top of that top hip, pressing that hand weight down into the top of the thigh as those legs lift and lower. Make sure those legs stay glued together and find your balance in this side lying position. Now try lifting the head and the shoulder off your mat. So you really are crunching into the top oblique. As your head lifts, your legs lift, and then you lower down to the floor, reaching that top arm towards that top knee and lowering with control. Rest here for a moment after this last one, and then you will bend your legs. You're going to come up onto your forearm if you want. You can always stay side lying. We're going into our side kick. If you have a weight, you can reach your arm out in front of you, press your hand into that weight as you kick the leg forwards and backwards. You can flex your foot as you kick forward, little pulse, point through your foot as you extend your leg behind your hip, staying strong through that glute and hamstring of your top leg. That top outer thigh is really working to keep that leg hip height as it passes forwards and backwards, making sure you're not rotating through the shoulders here. Keep the shoulders stacked, keep the hip stacked, and rest for a moment here. We're coming into clam now, so you can stay up on your forearm, lift from the underneath side as you begin to open through your top hip here. See what range you've got through the external rotators of your top leg. Pressing that hand weight into the top of that thigh just to give you a little bit of resistance as your knee opens, making sure the top hip doesn't roll back. If you want to, lift the bottom hip off your mat, so you're really having to stay strong and supported through your underneath side as you continue with this clam. External rotation through your top hip, lower down, rest for a moment. Place your weight, if you're using it, behind your knee. We are circling now our leg through that hip. Little circles as you're laying down on your mat. Active through that underneath side, squeezing that weight behind your leg, so really staying connected through that hamstring and glute, keeping that heel glued towards your glute muscle so that weight doesn't drop from behind your knee. Just circling through this hip now, breathing as you circle, about 30 seconds in each direction. Reverse your direction now for this other 30 seconds. See what range you've got as you're moving that leg through that top hip, staying stable through the shoulders, stable through your pelvis here, not letting that hip roll forwards or backwards as you're circling that femur bone in its hip socket. Really staying connected with that weight behind your leg. Strong through the outer thighs, your leg lifts up and goes behind you. And after this 30 seconds, rest for a moment. Release that weight from behind your leg. You can sit up and take a figure 4 stretch here, or lay down and take a figure 4 stretch, or just take that leg over your straight leg. Anchor your sitting bones down here, stretching through that outer thigh. You can get a little bit of a twist through that spine if you're seated. And then we come over to side lying on the other side. So we'll repeat all of those exercises on your other side, laying all the way down using the weight if you want to for our double leg lift and lower here. So rest the head on the arm is rested on the floor as you just lift and lower both legs. Keep those inner thighs connected by squeezing those legs together. Find the balance here. Maybe you feel a little more unstable on one side, so you can always use your top arm as a kickstand, or that hand weight and hand and arm is pressing into the top side of your body as those legs lift and lower. If you want to, you can start to add the lift of the head, and that bottom shoulder lifts off your mat as your legs lift off the mat. Reaching that top arm down the top side of your leg as the head and the feet lift off the mat. Lower with control, stay balanced here. Really pull the belly in and up to help stabilize that pelvis. Maybe one more here, shortening through that top oblique as you lift up and then lower down to rest. Set yourself up on your forearm here. We're going into the side kick. You can always stay side lying, but you're lifting through your underneath side. That top leg is lifted hip height as you kick it forward. We pulse, pulse, extend it back and pulse, pulse. Press your top arm down into that weight if you're using it. Really stack your shoulders, stack those hips as that leg kicks forwards and backwards here. And then we're going to lower your leg down, bending those knees for our clam. So set yourself up, toes are together, heels are together, knees are in front of you. You have heels, hip and shoulder alignment as you start to open and close through your top leg. Find that external rotation through your top hip here, not letting the hip roll back. Pressing that weight into the top of that thigh if you're using it, lifting up to make it harder here. If you want to come into this side kneeling plank, you can always look down at your forearm if you need to release through the head and the neck, but make sure the shoulders don't roll forwards. And lower the hips, resting here. That top leg will have your weight if you're using it. We're going into our leg circling for 1 minute, 30 seconds in each direction. So off you go to circle. Come down to side lying so you get a little bit more range through that hip as you're circling. You can then focus on drawing that lower oblique up off your mat, pulling the belly in and up here, even when you're laying down on that mat. That foot stays behind you, it stays close to your glute. That knee comes up and around and forwards without letting that pelvis start to wobble around and move forward or backwards. Keep circling in this direction. And now reverse it for 30 seconds. Thinking about that knee making your circle up and around and backwards. Squeezing that hamstring, squeezing that glute. Almost done here as you're circling this top leg, and then we get to stretch it out into your figure 4. Lower your leg, take that weight from your knee, and you can sit yourself up, you can lay yourself down for a figure 4 stretch. You can cross one leg over your straight leg and come into that seated twist. Just that sitting bones are pressing into the floor to really stretch out through your outer thigh of your working leg there. Little bit of rotation if you want to through that spine, and then you'll come all the way up. And you're going to come over. We're going into some push-ups now, so we need to transition into an all fours position. You can do your push-ups on your knees or on the toes. We're going into a little bit of a sequence. So we'll start with wide arm push-ups. You're going to be on your knees and you're going to do one push-up, lowering and lifting, and then you're going to push to a plank. You can lift your legs behind you and then drop it to your knees. You're doing 2 wide arm push-ups. You push to a plank, you lift your leg behind you, right leg, left leg, drop it to the knees for 3 push-ups here. You can always stay on the knee to do the hip extension, your leg reaching behind you, or on your toes, just straightening your legs. Dropping it down, we're doing 4 wide arm push-ups. Stay connected through those shoulders, strong through your chest muscles here. After you've done 4, you'll do your plank and the leg lifts. Then you come into a narrow tricep position for 4 kneeling tricep push-ups. So staying a little narrower now through your hands and shoulders 4 times. You'll push to a plank here, do the leg lifts, drop it to your knees, we're going down and we're doing 3 tricep push-ups. Elbows are grazing those ribs as you lower and lift. In your plank, you lift your legs behind you, drop it to your knees for 2 tricep push-ups. Almost done here. Nice and strong in your plank. Keep the hips low as those legs lift, finishing with that 1 tricep push-up and resting. Sitting back into your child's rest pose there. Roll out your wrists, release through the hips. Nice work through that ladder series of going 1, 2, 3, 4 and 4, 3, 2, 1 in those push-ups and the planking series. We'll come up now into a little bit more back extension work. We're going into some kneeling back extension work. You can always kneel on a blanket here or roll up your mat. You can kneel right up so that hips are over the shoulders, over the knees, or sit the hips back over your heels. Let's just do a little bit of side flexion. So you're going to reach one arm overhead, take the hand weights if you've got them, and then you'll have to use that opposite oblique to lift yourself back to center and side bend over in the other direction. Lift out of it all the way upright and take that flexion through the side of that waist, stretching here. Use those arms to keep them nice and straight, especially with the weights. Let's add a little bit of rotation. That top arm will come in front of your face to circle. You'll do the side bend, you'll rotate that top shoulder and you'll come back to center, circling the arm in front of your face to get a little bit of a twist through the thoracic spine. Lift yourself back to center and then you'll do the side bend over and the rotation. Lift yourself all the way up. Now let's go into back extension. You're going to lift and hinge back just through that chest, through that thoracic spine, and then you can press your hands into the side of the body as you hinge back. Pull yourself forwards and open those arms to a T position. Take the gaze up to the ceiling and then come back up to a kneeling position. That chest is open and then you lift yourself up with those abs, a little bit of quad engagement here. Take a breath here. We're going into our breaststroke now from a kneeling position. So arms reach overhead, you're going to hinge back. You circle those arms behind you, bend your elbows as you come all the way back up to a kneeling position. Extend through that upper back, open out your arms, strong through the abs as you come upright, shoulders over the hips. Lose the hand weights if you want to. You still do the same thing with those arms through the back. Bending those elbows, hands come up to the shoulders, hands reach up to the ceiling or the sky, open through your chest, hands to your hips, and then bend your elbows back to the shoulders. reaching on the inhale and exhale to come all the way back upright. Good. And then now we'll round out through your back. Drop the weights if you were using them, just to let those arms feel a little lighter. Scoop the abs, sit the hips back as you round back. Squeeze the glutes as you lift your chest open and circle those arms. Just a few here. It's like you're hugging that tree and then opening out through your arms and chest. Good. Nice through that back and that kneeling work. We'll come to a seated position to finish now. Just sit upright, resting those hands on your knees or whatever's comfortable, looking to the left and the right with the head and the neck. Keep the shoulders over your hips, looking with those eyes, and then looking the eyes up and down. The head and the neck will follow what the eyes do, so take the gaze up and take the gaze down to the floor. And then you can tilt your head side to side. Just drop your ear to that shoulder. Feel that stretch through the side of your neck, relaxing through those shoulders and arms here. Let the head be heavy as it tilts to the left and the right. And then take a big stretch. Arms can reach overhead. Nice work today, guys. Well done. See you next time. Take care.